Now, have you ever made a really cool prop? 3D printing is getting real big now, or maybe you're more of a traditional artist and you make things with maquettes, or maybe you just made a cool invention and you want to figure out how to make multiples of it economically. Well, you can do that through making molds. So today we're going to start with a nice basic one-piece mold. Now, one-piece molds are usually if you want to do something on just one side. Today we're going to be doing it with my old Marine Corps coin here. So what we want to do is, first of all, we want to make sure that we secure the coin to the paper here. So I'm just going to use a couple of quick drops of super glue and just put a drop or two on the back here, just so it doesn't move around much. And I'm just going to stick it down on the paper there. So that's going to hold it in place nice, make sure it doesn't slide around, anything like that. So when we're making our mold, we want to make sure that we figure out how big a space we want to determine how much mold we're going to use. So to do my box around my mold, I just use this nice cool whiteboard. It's easy to manipulate, easy to cut. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to cut a couple pieces. About the size of the square I want. Just go through and cut each one. To give me my 4 sides. You can see I have all kinds of little scraps of this I use for all the different molds I make. And then I basically just want to make a little box around my coin here. Now, to set up your box, you can do it a couple of different ways. You can use clay and just kind of set the clay in place to hold everything together and make sure it's nice and tight at the bottom. Or you can use what I like to use, duct tape. Give me duct tape and zip ties and I can cure the world. So I like to use duct tape, it's a little easier I think. And I'm just going to kind of lay this out. And then grab my knife here. Cut some of this back. Then go on to the next piece. I'm just going to use that to fold it over. Grab another piece of my duct tape. Put it in place here. And just kind of work my way around. Doesn't have to be exact, as you can see. Maybe put that one about there. And then put the last one across here. So I get a cool little box. The good thing about using duct tape is it's going to seal everything really well. You'll see I'll use a couple more pieces on the corners. Gotta trim this down a little bit. Just kind of trim everything into shape. So that kind of gives me my basic shape for the box. And I'm going to use a couple more strips to make sure those corners are nice and tight and airtight, because I don't want my plastic to be squeezing out and wasting any of that. So I'm just going to kind of keep going around like that. Just making a nice, tight frame around the entire thing. You see, I'm just going around all the edges to make sure that nothing will leak through when I'm pouring my silicone. Like I said, I like using duct tape because it's easy to work with, makes a nice tight fit that usually won't give you any leaks. Sometimes using the clay, you can miss a spot or get little bubbles in there that allow some of the silicone to leak out. So there we go, we get something kind of like that. Now, once we have our box made, then really all we have to do is start mixing up our mold making material. So for the mold make material, I'm going to be using Moldstar 20T. This is nice because it's a platinum based silicone rubber, so it cures real fast. The cure time on this is only about 4 hours. And it's a 1-to-1 mix ratio, so it's easy to make. Basically, you have your part A and your part B, and you just need to mix them at a 1-to-1 ratio. So what I'm going to do is I have my cool little measuring cup here, and I'm going to grab a couple of my mixing straws. And I'm also going to put on some gloves. This stuff can get a little bit messy, so I like using gloves. And then I'm basically just going to pour the same amount in here of each part. So I'm going to use my stir straw, stir it up a little bit. And then I'm basically going to pour in about 100 milliliters of each. That should give me plenty to use. Probably give me a little bit more than I need, but I'd rather have a little bit more than not enough. I should go a little bit under that. Now you want to be careful, you don't want these mixing before you're ready to start using it. So you don't want to use the same straw in both containers. So it gives me a little bit under 100 milliliters. I'm going to do the same thing with the part B. Give it a good little mix. And then go ahead and pour it in. That should be plenty. So now we have our two parts. Now we need to mix, and you want to make sure you mix thoroughly. So you want to take your time. Make sure you get around the sides. Scrape the bottom. Make sure you're getting a good mix. Now the nice thing about this mold also is it's transparent. So you can actually see your object through it as you're pouring, which is kind of a nice feature. Make sure you're getting a good coverage. And then once you get it mixed nice and thoroughly, you can start pouring it. Now when you're pouring this in, you want to be careful of air bubbles. Another nice thing about the platinum cured is you don't have to degas it. It pours pretty well. You want to start at a lower part in the container and let it fill itself up over your object. You see how that's just pouring on in there? That should actually be plenty. A little bit higher, why not? We have the material. And there we go. Now we just have to wait. This one takes about 4 hours to cure until it's nice and solid and ready to be used. So for now, that's it. See y'all in 4 hours.